Toss-up number 1, science. Bloom filters rely on this type of function that is pre-computed to form rainbow tables. Java's object class has a method for generating this type of code, and these functions are applied to passwords to avoid storing them in an easy-to-steal format. Functions used to calculate checksums like MD5 are known by, for 10 points, what term that also denotes a Twitter topic or tag prefixed by the pound sign. Toss-up number 2, science. This body's gravitational anomalies include its mass-con basins such as Crisium. Creep deposits are found on this body whose formation may have occurred through a big splash after a Mars-sized impactor hit its host planet. Its surface is covered with light highlands called Terrae and dark Maria such as the Sea of Tranquility. For 10 points, name this only extraterrestrial body that humans have set foot on. Toss-up number 3, math. The name of this quantity is used twice in an algorithm used to select pivots in quicksort. This quantity is also named twice in a method that uses 3 points to find a line of best fit of data. The segment inside the box of a box plot represents this value, equivalent to the second quartile of data. For 10 points, name this quantity such that half the data is greater than it and half the data is less than it. Toss-up number 4, science. The hexactinellid or glass variety of these organisms can live for over 10,000 years. These organisms reproduce with buds called gemmules, which are expelled from an opening called the osculum, through which water flows. Members of this phylum lack tissues. Instead, they have a gel-like layer, the mesohyle, reinforced by the mineralized skeleton of spicules. For 10 points, name these invertebrates in phylum Porifera. Toss-up number 5, math. Pencil and paper ready. Gary needs to find the total surface area of a regular triangular pyramid whose edges each have a length of 5. Since such a pyramid is a regular tetrahedron, he knows that the surface has 4 congruent equilateral triangles with side length 5. By using the properties of 30, 60, 90 right triangles, Gary thus computes, for 10 points, what surface area for a triangular pyramid with an edge length of 5. Toss-up number 6, social studies. This state's representatives include Jeopardy champion Rush Holt, who announced his candidacy for a Senate seat in June 2013. Frank Lautenberg's death opened up that seat in this state, where it was eventually won by Cory Booker. This state's governor praised Barack Obama's response to Hurricane Sandy and its potential 2016 Republican presidential nominee. For 10 points, name this state led by Governor Chris Christie. Toss-up number 7, math. Pencil and paper ready. Paul needs to find the area of the smaller of the two sectors formed by the graph of y equals the absolute value of x, and the circle x squared plus y squared equals 4. Paul realizes that he must first determine both the measure of the central angle of the sector and the total area of the circle. For 10 points, what is the area of the sector? Toss-up number 8, fine arts. A duet from this opera, Duvuncael Mondo, describes a 999-year lease. Its title character, who sings Joachim a piano, says her son's name will change from sorrow to joy. As sailors sing Oe Oe, this opera's title character imagines a ship arriving as she sings Un bel dì. The marriage of the American officer Pinkerton to Cho-Cho-san is the focus of, for 10 points, what Giacomo Pucci opera set in Japan?
Toss-up number 9, social studies. This term was coined in 1625 by the Dutch jurist Hugo Grotius, who took it from the Latin for supreme lordship. The Supreme Court validated the use of this action to benefit the private company Pfizer in the 2005 case of Kelo versus New London. It is justified by the Takings Clause of the Fifth Amendment. For 10 points, name this process by which the government seizes private property for just compensation. Toss-up number 10, social studies. This group set governing duties with the Treaty of Brundisium. One member of this group fought the Sicilian rebellion of Sextus Pompeius. The collapse of this group led to a battle in the Ambracian Gulf that was won by Marcus Vipsanius Agrippa's forces following the retreat of Cleopatra's fleet. Lepidus was the least important member of, for 10 points, what group that also included Mark Antony and Octavian? Toss-up number 11, literature. In one novel by this author, Elisha must decide whether he will execute a British prisoner. This author, who wrote about Zionist soldiers in Dawn, also wrote a work in which residents of the town of Saget ignore the warnings of Moishi the beetle. The narrator of that work resents giving rations to his father and lies to Dr. Mengele. For 10 points, name this writer sent to Auschwitz as a teenager, the author of Night. Toss-up number 12, miscellaneous. This man's father, a Minnesota congressman, attacked the Federal Reserve Act in banking, currency, and the money trust. This spokesman for the America First Committee lost popularity after he repeatedly traveled to Nazi Germany to inspect the Luftwaffe. The kidnapping of his son was known as the crime of the century. For 10 points, name this aviator who in 1927 crossed the Atlantic on the Spirit of St. Louis. Toss-up number 13, Fine Arts. This composer used John Dowland's song Come Heavy Sleep as the basis for his Nocturnal for guitar. He set Anthem for Doomed Youth in a choral work that mixes Wilfred Owen's poetry with the Latin Mass for the dead. He used a theme by Henry Purcell in an educational piece that displays each instrument's sound. For 10 points, name this British composer of the War Requiem and the Young Person's Guide to the Orchestra. Toss-up number 14, Social Studies. This man explained how he became U.S. convict number 9653 in his memoir, Walls and Bars, which he published after being released from prison in Atlanta. In 1893, this man became the first leader of the American Railway Union, but was imprisoned a year later for his role in the Pullman strike. For 10 points, name this co-founder of the Industrial Workers of the World, a socialist presidential candidate. Toss-up number 15, Literature. In one novel by this author, the good man, Jesus Maria Corcoran, becomes an unwilling vehicle of evil. This author of Tortilla Flat also wrote a novel in which Lee cuts his hair after the fall of the Manchus, and the heartless Kathy Ames deserts her husband, Adam Trask. In another novel by this author, the Joad family migrates to California. For 10 points, name this author of East of Eden and The Grapes of Wrath. Toss-up number 16, Mathematics. Pencil and paper ready. Nina needs to find the shared y-coordinate of the intersection points of the parabolas y equals x squared plus 5 and y equals negative 3x squared plus 17. Nina sets the two equations equal to each other, first finds the x-coordinates, and then substitutes back to find the shared y-coordinate. For 10 points, compute the y-coordinate of the intersection points. Toss-up number 17, Mathematics. Paradoxes arising in the naive form of this field of mathematics prompted the development of various formal frameworks for it, such as the Zermelo-Fraenkel axioms plus the axiom of choice. Operations on pairs of the namesake objects of this area of mathematics include Cartesian products, unions, and intersections. For 10 points, name this area of mathematics that studies collections of objects. Toss-up number 18, Fine Arts. This artist's depictions of the Madonna include a Sistine one and one featuring a goldfinch. This artist's most famous painting is found with his Parnassus and Disputation of the Holy Sacrament in La Stanza della Segnatura. That work shows Heraclitus at the bottom of some steps, turned away from Plato and Aristotle. For 10 points, name this Renaissance artist of the School of Athens. Toss-up number 19, Social Studies. This man defeated the Commune of Rome and signed the Peace of Venice, recognizing Alexander III as pope after he lost at Legnano. He exiled Henry the Lion for failing to aid him against the Lombard League and was supported by the Ghibellines in Florence. This member of the Hohenstaufen dynasty drowned while taking part in the Third Crusade. For 10 points, name this Holy Roman Emperor nicknamed for his red beard. Toss-up number 20, literature. When a noblewoman refused this deity shelter, one of the deity's scorpions named Tefn stung that noblewoman's son. After Ra was bitten by a snake, this eldest daughter of Geb and Nut healed him in exchange for learning his secret name. This deity recovered 13 pieces of her dead husband, who had been killed by his evil brother Set. For 10 points, name this mother of Horus and husband of Osiris.
Toss-up 21. Science. This constant multiplies the logarithm of the number of available microstates to give the entropy of a system. In a gas, the average translational kinetic energy per particle is 3/2 times the temperature times this constant, which equals the universal gas constant over Avogadro's number. For 10 points, name this constant equal to about 1.38 times 10 to the negative 23rd power joules per Kelvin, denoted K sub B. Toss-up 22. Literature. In the final novel, named for this man, his lover, Thelma Harrison, dies of lupus, and he himself dies of a heart attack in Florida. The character first appeared in a 1960 novel as a salesman of kitchen gadgets who abandons his pregnant wife, Janice, and reminisces about his high school basketball stardom. For 10 points, name this character who is at rest and who must run in a tetralogy of novels by John Updike. Toss-up 23. Literature. This character calls the rising sun God's bright beacon after he challenges Brekka to a swimming race, meets a pack of sea monsters, and washes up on the shores of Lapland. According to Unferth, the subject of King Hygelac is an idle boaster, but rips the arm and the shoulder off a creature in scaly harness that attacks the mead hall of Hrothgar. For 10 points, name this Anglo-Saxon hero, the slayer of Grendel. Toss-up 24. Science. The low barrier form this phenomenon occurs over lengths of less than 2.55 angstroms. The bifluoride ion displays the strongest known example of this interaction, which requires two atoms of a highly electronegative element such as oxygen or fluorine. The anomalously high boiling point of water is caused for, by 10 points, what type of non-covalent bonds involving a namesake element?